Joining us now from Bristol for more on the story is Tony Gosling, historian and investigative journalist. Hello, a good day to you, Tony. Good evening. Hope you're safe and doing well out there in Bristol. Your initial thoughts on the Hezbollah's retaliatory strikes and how they significantly and dramatically differ from those we've seen out of Palestinian resistance in Gaza.
Well, the move to invade Lebanon and to declare war on Lebanon, which is what the Israelis have done, the timing was interesting. The idea is that they're not getting very much good publicity from killing women and children and using tanks and the air force against the defenseless people against those sorts of weapons. In other words, using modern weapons. That there really isn't any way that the occupied people in Gaza can fight back. To move all this onto Lebanon has been quite interesting. The timing, very interesting here in Britain. The same week, a couple of weeks ago, when this new front was opened up by the Israeli Defense Forces deliberately, we had the Al Jazeera network taken off our Freeview, which is digital television here in the UK. You can now only watch it via the internet and with an internet connection. So you can see what's going on here is that the military strategies on the ground are matched at exactly the same time with psychological warfare moves by the Western allies of Israel, who are operating in this fascist manner through big corporations that now control our telecommunications system. And so it's no longer governments over here that have power over these TV channels, really. I mean, there is the BBC, which, to be fair, has been doing as good a job as you can expect in balanced reporting, much of which has been extremely critical of Israel. But certainly all the commercial channels in the West have been really, really backing Israel. And so what they're trying to do in Britain and the United States and Europe is to create this impression, obviously in Australia and New Zealand too, in the English-speaking world really, is to create this impression that this is a sort of an equal war between one side and another, and the Israelis are always responding to something that the Lebanese are doing, or Hamas are doing, or the Gazans are doing. Well, look, the leader of Hamas has been killed last week, and yet the killing of the women and children is actually intensifying in Gaza. So quite clearly it's nothing to do, the military genocide is nothing to do with Hamas. If you've just killed the leader, then hopefully you would think, well, okay, so that may be, we don't need to kill as many women and children. But no, it's actually intensified with this massive clearance in northern Gaza and an open admission that rather than taking prisoners, they are going to kill women and children in northern Gaza. And just for your viewers, people may not realise the extent to which this is affecting Britain. Manchester, a big city in the north of England, who have a very famous theatre called the Royal Exchange, they had a production run of William Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, which is a terrific play. If you can ever get to see it live, it's a wonderful play. But anyway, it's been cancelled over a big row, just simply over a bit of pro-Palestinian graffiti that was in the set of the play. So, of course, the audience and the people of Manchester are big fans of Palestine. They're big supporters of Palestine, and they see the Palestinian resistance as utterly oppressed. And what's happened is, because of presumably fears, well, most certainly fears from the Arts Council, which is British government funding for this theatre, a woman who's in charge in the north of England called Rebecca Ball. This is what's happening. Is that this created such a row within the theatre, with pro-Palestinian actors and actresses and production staff and set designers saying, no, we are not going to put this production on if you're going to remove this bit of graffiti from the set of a play. So that's how powerful the Israel lobby is, and it's acting largely through cowardly and control freak government representatives in places like the Arts Council, who refuse to stand up for freedom of expression.
And Tony, Secretary of State, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, he's back in occupied Palestine to supposedly keep that in mind. Press the Israelis for a ceasefire in Gaza and in Lebanon. Are you buying it? And if he is, why does it take? This is his 11th trip since October 7th of last year to the region, Tony. If he's really that concerned about a ceasefire, or his administration is, they have so many tools to push for one, actually really truly press the regime in Tel Aviv for one, or do you feel like he's there for other reasons?
Look, you know my answer. You know me well enough to know my answer. No, he is not really pressing them at all. This is just for the cameras. It's for the press. The economist Michael Hudson has expressed it and explained it extremely well. There is no intention of stopping these endless wars, not only by the Israeli proxies of the United States of America against Gaza and Lebanon and all other enemies of the United States, like Iran in the Middle East, this sort of Trojan horse crusader state that was set up with the aid of the United States, Nelson Rockefeller particularly, Victor Rothschild in Britain, and the British government at the end of the Second World War. That there is, these endless wars are there because they are intent on something very simple. It's the sort of thing that used to get the Bond villains in the Bond films wanting, desiring. In fact, I think it's Dr. No, where Sean Connery playing James Bond says, "World domination, same old dream." He shakes his head. And that's what they want, world domination. And they're going to carry on these wars. I believe it's possible that the war with Russia may be sorted out, particularly because of the history of the Cold War, the history of the tens of millions of Russians that died in the Second World War fighting Hitler, where a fractional proportion of that Americans and British died in that war. But I think they're intent on keeping the war in the Middle East going. Basically, they want to create chaos in the Middle East. And they believe that they can, out of that chaos, they can bring a more powerful kind of new world order. This is what they're talking about. The Russians are talking about the BRICS conference in Russia at the moment too. But it's two competing new world orders, isn't it? There is a Russian, Chinese, Iranian, South African BRICS new world order that they want to see, with their financial institutions, their global governance institutions to enforce the rule of war. And it's the old school IMF, NATO style world order that is being swept away, I think, bit by bit. And that's why they will, I think, keep this war in Gaza and Lebanon going as long as they possibly can. And they have no intention of stopping it. Blinken has got no intention of stopping it, and only, I think, a new president, not Kamala Harris, possibly Donald Trump may do something. But then there is also the possibility that he, as a Christian Zionist, will be even more behind Netanyahu as a kind of swivel-eyed Zionist himself. Although I do believe that Trump has got intentions towards peace. This is the American way, I'm afraid, and it has been pretty much since the Second World War. They're using the victory in World War II and the economic and nuclear domination that they had back in the 1940s and 1950s to try to push for world domination, and therefore the people of Gaza are simply having to suffer because the international institutions the BRICS are trying to replace are simply not doing their job.